Hey guys, it's Zane here. In this video, I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about my own personal story studying abroad and living in different countries, and also a little bit about how I started Zane Abroad and what I do. So I first started my study abroad journey over 10 years ago. I made an unconventional decision to leave my home country of the US and study in Japan for university. I lived there for 4 years. I studied international business, which gave me a very unique experience. I got to study business from the perspective of Japan and Asia. I also got to do it all while I was studying the Japanese language. It was a life-changing experience for me. I got to meet not only so many people my age from Japan, but also from many other countries in the region. As it turned out, some of my best friends there were actually people from other countries, not the US or Japan, which was not exactly what I expected at the time. By my third year of university, I was already very fluent in Japanese. I had a very strong grasp of the culture and business environment, and it already worked part-time jobs. And I also had the opportunity to do an internship in my third year of university, and I decided to once again step out of my comfort zone and even decided to leave Japan for an entirely new experience. I ended up going to Hong Kong to do an internship for about 6 months, and that was another life-changing experience for me. I got to learn all about the greater Chinese world, and I was particularly impressed with Hong Kong's diverse international environment. I found that the people there were mostly bilingual, and I met many other foreigners from around the region and people from across China. During my time in Hong Kong, I first got exposure into the world of international education. As part of my job, I was required to visit international schools and bilingual schools throughout the city-state, and I learned firsthand just how big the demand was for kids in the greater China region to learn in English and also get an international bilingual education. However, I soon discovered that Hong Kong wasn't the best place for me to actually learn Mandarin because it was primarily a Cantonese-speaking environment and also an environment where many people spoke English as a second language. I then looked into doing a master's program somewhere where I could learn more about China and Chinese, and after doing a search for different universities, I ultimately decided to study in Taiwan. I was attracted by the cultural environment in Taiwan and also by the fact that many elements of Taiwan kind of reminded me of Japan. By that time, I had an opportunity to travel around China, so I was also very familiar with places in the PRC, but I ultimately decided that Taiwan was the place for me to do my master's degree and study Mandarin. I did my master's degree in Taiwan in NCCU for over 2 years. I gained proficiency in Chinese, built a community of friends in Taiwan and from around the world, and worked in the Taiwanese media for a while. But after working for several years, I was still very curious to learn new things about Asia in general and further develop my research skills. After several years of living in Taiwan, I also became more and more interested in Southeast Asia, the cultures there, the languages, and also the history of migration from China into Southeast Asia was something that I was personally really interested in and wanted to study more about. I luckily had the opportunity to pursue a PhD in Singapore, which I thought at the time was a very unique opportunity for me because it was something that required my knowledge of Chinese at the time and my expertise that I built in international relations and the knowledge about higher education that I developed in Hong Kong. Moving to Singapore was another whole experience for me that was quite life-changing actually. It was an opportunity for me to be introduced to a completely new region, which was Southeast Asia. Singapore was also, like Hong Kong, a very international, interconnected city-state where there were people from all over the world working there. It was very exciting for me. It was a different cultural environment, so it meant eating new foods and meeting people from different places in the world that I'd up until then not been familiar with. It was also a very big milestone in my academic career. I followed my previous experience in higher education and studied higher education policy, internationalization of universities, and I didn't only do it in Singapore. I even got a chance to go back to Taiwan and study Taiwan's education system more in depth, and I also had the opportunity to go and live in Malaysia for 6 months where I conducted a study and I was hosted in a university there, and it was really a very exciting experience for me and one that allowed me to build in-depth experience in the higher education sector throughout Asia. And it made me realize that there is a desire for people all over the world to study abroad and to to work overseas eventually, and build connections outside of their home country. But throughout my time studying in all these different countries, I noticed a pattern that many of my classmates, particularly from Japan and Taiwan, were shy to speak up in class and approach the professor if they had questions. I soon came to realize that this was because education systems in Asia usually discourage students from asking questions and simply push students to memorize facts in preparation for a test, and usually without any critical thinking involved. Throughout this process, I also had many opportunities to help my classmates correct their papers. Beyond noticing their problems with grammar patterns and word choice, I also noticed that many of these students struggled to really grasp the core of what their paper was actually about. Some of my classmates were under the impression that their professors would help them with their English problems and even help them plan out their research. The unfortunate reality is this is rarely the case. The reality is most professors are very, very busy people that have many responsibilities in the university, which include teaching courses, grading papers, giving lectures, attending research seminars, and helping graduate students is unfortunately not one of their top priorities. I came to see that this was a massive problem for graduate students, particularly non-native English speakers. I therefore came up with the idea that I need to help these graduate students find a way to confidently and effectively function in grad school, write papers, and participate in class like their local classmates. Following my PhD, this led me to establish Zane Abroad and my AP course. I wanted my course to be beneficial to as many students as possible, so I designed it in such a way that it would be useful to students regardless of their major in university. At the end of the day, I came to realize that most students that study overseas have a common desire to become what I call global talent. I define global talent as young people who are bilingual, have broad knowledge about the world, have specialized knowledge about the subject they majored in, and can comfortably navigate the international job market and multiple societies. Studying overseas and in English is a fantastic opportunity to gain specialized knowledge in your field, gain proficient written and spoken English abilities, and an aptitude for problem solving, analysis, and cultural knowledge. I hope this video was helpful in giving you a better idea about what I do in Zane Abroad, and I look forward to meeting many of you in my courses and other things that we have upcoming in the future. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.